I've seen even during campaigning that JD Vance, for example, was like, let's stop funding the war in Ukraine. We've got to focus on China. Like there was so much talk about let's focus on China. But with China being maybe one of the most genuinely economically sovereign countries that we've got, do you see any of the playbook, like the typical deep state CIA playbook, being used? Because even though Marco Rubio, for example, is saying that Taiwan will be invaded by 2030, I mean, there's so much rhetoric that suggests the need for militaristic intervention, etc. Like what? But like what you were saying, it seems like more of an economic competition type of thing. I'm just curious if you are seeing any of those, the same sort of playbook when it comes to China, because I know that American public seems to be quite anti-Chinese.
Yes, well, I think there is a certain anti-Chinese sentiment. Again, having worked for the steelworkers for years, they were very anti-Japanese for years because Japan was a very strong U.S. competitor, particularly in the auto industry. Now they've been totally eclipsed by China, so then the steelworkers became very anti-China to the point of being really racist, I would say, about the Chinese. And again, I think that's significant that you have union. These are supposed to be more enlightened institutions that are very anti-Chinese. I think there is a huge anti-Chinese sentiment that's been promoted in many different ways in the United States. And I agree. If you look at the polls, people are actually not that troubled by Russia. Most people don't think Russia's a threat, but most people do think China's a threat. And yeah, of course, the playbook will be very similar. I think the U.S. is going to use Taiwan in the same way they use Ukraine as a proxy against China. I think it was Mao Zedong that actually compared not Ukraine and Taiwan, but Israel and Taiwan. So that, Israel plays the same role in the Middle East as Taiwan does in Asia to counter the adversaries of the United States. So, yeah, I mean, I think that playbook is going to be probably run the same way. Now, the Chinese are very smart, I think. I think Xi Jinping is very smart. I mean, I think they know this is coming or could be coming and going to do what they have to prevent it somehow, right? And I think they won't be provoked into a war with Taiwan in the same way that Putin was provoked in Ukraine. I don't think Xi Jinping thought it was a good idea what Putin did, to be honest. So we'll see. But I do think China is the next big target. That's very, very clear.
China presents no threat really to Western countries, the United States and Europe, and yet you've just got a constant media propaganda to suggest that that is the case. And it's just absolutely ludicrous, really. So that's really got our work cut out in the anti-war movement to clarify that, I think.
Yeah, their big threat is to build speed trains, which I welcome. We could use a few speed trains. I would bow to my Chinese overlords if they would build us some speed trains.
Well, yeah, I mean, the high-speed trains, the renewable energy, all these things actually would be
It's
very useful
incredible what
to
they're
save
doing.
humanity from climate
Yeah.
change as well. But of course, this is all demonized as well. So it's
No, that's the incredible thing. That's like somehow a speed train's a threat. I mean, it's actually insane. Jimmy Carter, you probably know this, he actually had a call with Trump. Trump called him during his first term to talk about China. And Jimmy Carter said, I think, one of the most profoundly correct things. He told Trump, he said, well, China hasn't been at war since 1979. The U.S. has been at war nearly every year of its existence. And he says, that's why China has speed trains and we don't. He said to Trump, where are your speed trains? Well, we don't have any because all the money's been put into armaments, right? And that's so true. I mean, it just also, I just have to say, when I think about China, I am in total awe of what China's done. When I was a kid, all the news footage we saw of China was of people riding bicycles. No one had cars. Within a few decades, they have had the greatest economic and technological development known to humankind. I mean, to me, they should be applauded. Unbelievable what they've done. Instead, as you say, they've been pilloried. And by the way, the U.S. didn't like them when they were riding bikes, and now they don't like them when they have cars. It doesn't matter. They just don't like China. And this goes back years and years and years, obviously, centuries, to this anti-Chinese sentiment of the West. And all for the same reason. They don't want China to rise. They didn't want China to rise, and now that it did rise, they really resent the heck out of it.